go. Good evening, guys. Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. We're in the studio with Steve and Chad as always. We have a special guest, one of our favorites, Connor Clark. How are we doing, Connor, man? Good to see you, bud.
Doing great, guys. Happy to be on with you guys again. A lot of busy recruiting talk, busy college football stuff going on lately. So happy to jump back on with you guys and chop it up a little bit.
Absolutely. It feels like it should be slow right now, but it seems like we're getting into September early is what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised when I saw all these high-level prospects announcing commitment dates for July, August, some late June. I thought NIL would kind of change that and make everybody wait a little bit, going all the way until like during the season, seeing how things go, and then also into early signing day. But looks like it's had an opposite effect, and guys are getting their spots early, and it's been kind of fun to follow everything because you got 5 stars, high 4 stars completely pulling themselves off the market and making some big time commitments to sometimes programs you don't really expect.
That's a good way to put it, my man. That's a good way to put it. And we've got a couple examples of that, obviously, that we're going to cover today. My gosh.
Yeah, so it's going to be good stuff, man. We got obviously a big breakdown yesterday. We had Aiden on, so I want to talk about that a little bit. We'll go into Malik Bryant. He pushed back his date. I kind of want to get your insight on that a little bit. Is that good news for Florida? Is that bad news? Is that I don't know news? Right? And then we'll go into the PK situation in Texas and kind of just break down that process, right? With him flipping and kind of throwing a curveball and keeping all of us on our toes. Everybody was shocked. We posted a clip there with Aiden because he was mind blown. It was kind of cool getting some insight from Aiden yesterday. All these guys talk. The way he described it is like they all have their own little group chat where they're like, hey, I'm going here. Where are you going? And just in a sense, putting together a little army of, hey, we're all going to go here and make a big impact. And I think that's where a lot of the hinting is for Gator recruiting coming over the next, 5 to 6 days is that's where the momentum feels like what's happening is that ghost-style recruiting we talked with Hirsch on Wednesday of, hey, Bailey's like, we're going to wait. We're going to set it up. We're going to have a big boom, and hopefully that'll kind of trickle in a few more. So before we get into that, though, talk about Malik a little bit. Do you have any insight on that? What was the reason for canceling? Was it one of those Bailey called in and said, hey, we've got some big things happening. Do you feel like that he's a Gator, or was it? When these guys push this back, it's always confusing to me. It's like you created an entire event, like people were headed to come see you, and now you've just moved it along.
Yeah, from everything that I've known about Malik, up until about a week and a half ago, it was pretty much set that he was going to be going to Miami. Obviously, Florida made a late push. Florida is right there in the thick of things now. With him pushing his commitment date back, I can't tell you if that's good or bad for Florida because I know going into Saturday, Florida was right there. Okay. I think it was probably 50-50, and a lot of people weren't sure where he was going to go. If you saw on 247 Sports, Andrew Ivins reduced his crystal ball confidence on Malik to Miami from 7 to 2. So a lot of people going into that commitment we're really like, hey, listen, I think it's Miami still, but Florida has made a big-time push, and it could very well be Florida. There's a lot going on behind the scenes with that one, obviously, because Florida kind of came out of nowhere the last week. So his process, I can't really tell you if pushing it back is going to be good or bad for Florida, but I do know that Florida is now firmly in that recruitment, and I think they have a pretty good shot of landing him should they continue to do things well. Obviously, Miami is recruiting at an unbelievable level as of late. They have had a couple kids commit elsewhere that were up there on their boards, like Jonil Aguero, who just committed to Georgia. I'm not going to try to say the kid's last name, but Olas, who just committed to Alabama, the offensive tackle. Those are guys that Miami thought they were getting going into this week, and they ended up going somewhere else. So maybe Miami thought that Florida was going to be the pick this week, and they asked Malik to push it back, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Florida said, hey, listen, we know you're committing Saturday, but give us a couple more days, give us another week. We've got some things working right now. And he's an Orlando area kid. Florida looks to be in really good position for 3 to 4 Orlando area kids that have commitment dates set for this week. So maybe they told him, hey, push it back a week. We're getting 3 kids from Orlando this week if Florida feels confident on those guys. And he says, hey, maybe I want to play with some more guys from my area.
Okay, so it kind of feels like what you're saying, that he was kind of heavy on Miami, right? Now Florida's seeming to make a push. It's giving me a little Jaden Rashada vibes, but the opposite, where it felt to me like the pushback was good. This is the first time when the Rashada pushback, I didn't feel good about it. I was like, excuse me, it felt like we had it there. And then all of a sudden Miami came out of nowhere. But with this one, it felt like we were kind of in the backseat the entire time. And now there's a lot of momentum headed into Florida. I mean, you see it all over Twitter right now. It's the sunglass emojis are at an all-time high. The button's wearing raw on that guy. But it's big, heavy for late July. Corey Bender from On3, it keeps saying it. Things look really good for late July. And to me, it kind of gives me those vibes of like he's waiting to be part of that big boom at the end of July. Now, did he announce his new commitment date? Do you know?
He has not publicly announced a new commitment date yet. I've been told it could be probably sometime over the next week. That's just speculation, though.
Okay.
You don't really know until the kid himself announces, but I've been told there's a possibility he decides to do it sometime over the next week.
Okay. And do you think that the PK situation, that he may have had some insight on that and heard that he wasn't going to Miami and maybe step back a little bit? We talked with Aiden yesterday, and he said that PK was the only one that nobody really had a pulse on. That's not saying that Malik didn't, but it seemed kind of interesting that he pulled back and then PK kind of threw us for a loop.
Yeah, I mean, so that whole situation kind of got weird because I'm sure you guys saw a few months ago, you had a triple commitment that was supposed to be on Saturday that was going to be Malik Bryant, Derek LeBlanc, and Peyton Kirkland all at the same commitment ceremony. Now, obviously, that got completely blown up with Derek LeBlanc deciding to do his thing with his teammates coming up on the 28th. Obviously, Malik Bryant backing out of his commitment date, and PK doing his thing, and they decided to do it separately and independent of each other, as opposed to doing a commitment date together all at the same location, which was the initial plan. I think PK, for a long time, I think he was going to Miami as well, up until about maybe a week or a week and a half ago. And the Texas thing kind of came out of the blue. Obviously, they were not in his top 5. Obviously, you had Aiden on here, and he was completely shocked. Sure. When PK decided to go to Texas. It was an interesting situation, though, because typically if you got a top 5 and maybe you decide not to go to the school that you thought you were going to go to initially, it's going to be a school that's in that top 5 that you pivot to. But to pivot all the way over to Texas, a school that he's never taken a visit to, a school that up until a couple days before his commitment, he didn't really talk to that often. I think he said in an interview that I saw somewhere that he was upset, was with his mom, and you know what, decided, hey, I'm going to call Coach Flood and see what's going on. And that's the offensive line coach over at Texas, and they welcomed him with open arms. So in a matter of probably 48 to 72 hours, it went from going to Miami, which is what he thought was going to happen, to pivoting over to Texas, which up until the Jerry Hamilton prediction at On3, nobody had a pulse on.
Sure.
And then of course PK is going to do what he is trying to do to throw everybody off the scent, where Jerry Hamilton puts that prediction in, and he goes, I haven't even visited Texas. Why would I go there? Like, what Texas? What's going on now? So he's going to try to throw everybody off that scent. Ultimately ends up deciding to go to Texas. I don't think, from everything that I know, I don't think Malik and PK were ever going to Miami just because they wanted to go play together. I just think Miami did a good job recruiting the both of them up until about a week and a half ago. I know Miami still definitely wants Malik. Florida's made a late push. Alabama wants him too, but I think there's a different play going on there for Malik that has Florida and Miami at the top. And then as far as PK's situation, I think Miami might have backed off a little bit as of late, which is what in turn caused him to pivot to a school outside of his top 5.
And so I guess, I mean, so backed off a little bit and then going to Texas. Again, that whole situation is strange because he never visited, right? So it's like, this is where the comments on Twitter are coming, well, he's just going for the bag. He's running for the money. And I'm tired of hearing that narrative, but this particular situation seems a little like, well, where did this come from? Like, the hat wasn't even on the table. right? So not saying that you had conversations. And again, he tweeted out, well, Arch Manning texted me saying he needed an LT. Well, it's like, I think if Arch was going to, tweet an LT, I think he would have go after a few 5 stars first. But I mean, it seems like, is he playing it up a little bit, right? Or did that really happen? Is that kind of how it played out? Is that another sign of the Manning effect in full play here? Or is it a kid kind of running like, I'm running out of options, maybe this is the best place to go kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, without getting too sensitive and into it too much,
sure.
I think a lot of the schools that were in Peyton's top 5 kind of cooled on him a little bit. I'm not saying they completely stopped recruiting him. Obviously, you hardly ever see an instance where a school completely stops recruiting a young man at any point that they were really heavily in on early in the process. But I think some of those schools cooled on him a little bit. Obviously, he was up front and he said he thought he was going to Miami. And it didn't work out. So obviously that's pretty clear that they cooled on him. And quite honestly, I think several of the schools in his top 5 cooled on him as well. So you get to the point where you're a week out from your commitment date, and I thought he might push it back because I had heard some things beforehand of how, hey, a couple of these schools have backed off a little bit. So I didn't know if he would still stick to that July 23rd commitment date. And then Jerry Hamilton drops the Texas crystal ball
Bombshell.
Or whatever on threes, whatever on threes prediction is. And then of course I got some information behind the scenes that said, yeah, it looks like PK's going to Texas. Obviously not going to put anything out there like that because I don't want to ruin the kid's moment. But it was one of those things where I think he pivoted to that for lack of the options inside of his top 5. I'm not sure on the Michigan State side. Maybe Michigan State really wanted him, or maybe he just didn't really want to go up to Michigan. Texas is doing a really good job recruiting right now. Obviously, like you said, they have Arch Manning in the class. So maybe he was like, you know what? Let me see if Texas is interested so I can go play with that class because they've assembled a very good recruiting class.
Great
and
class.
It's not, and it's not like, we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but it's not like he pivoted to a program that's at the G5 level or like a very small school. He, for lack of a better word, fell into Texas, but Texas is a big time Power 5 program with a great history. So he got a very good program that he's going to go play for. And Texas got a solid player. I just think that some of the other schools in his top may have backed off a little bit.
Yeah, if you're falling into being a commitment to the University of Texas, you're not in a bad spot, regardless of what may have been happening around you, what static may be kind of coming out from other schools, or even just the temperature of the recruitment of the kid. If your fallback is, well, I guess I got to take that Texas offer, you're still in pretty good shape. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. So. Look, it's been a whirlwind of the last 24 hours just to kind of see it all unfold. Now, with the Hamilton situation, I kind of want to get your take on this from a journalist perspective, right? Because you said, hey, I heard about it, but I didn't want to release it because I don't want to take away from the kid's moment, right? Obviously, Hamilton wasn't concerned about that, but there is a line where, look, that's what your job is, to break the news when you have it, to be ahead of it. That's why people subscribe to On3. That's why the follows are there, right? Do you feel that he overstepped? And it also kind of puts into play of like, look, did he, again, from your perspective, do you feel like he may have burned some bridges by releasing that information? Because obviously it's the old saying, like Peyton told somebody he trusted, that person told somebody they trusted, and then it just kind of falls down the line and it gets into that one person's hand who's like, I'm releasing it. And so now does he burn that bridge, or do you feel like that's just kind of the name of the game?
Yeah, so it's pretty much just the name of the game. I know some of these recruits get frustrated. Obviously, very public situation was when AJ Harris got a bunch of crystal balls to Florida back in March or April, I think it was. And he got pissed off about it. Took to Twitter and was like, "Oh, somebody else." I think Billy tweeted another sunglass emoji, and he's like, "Oh, who are you going to crystal ball this time?" After the AJ Harris situation. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you just kind of have to chalk it up to them doing their job. I mean, I understand the kids' frustration because a lot of them want it to be secret. But the guys just doing their job. And it's, I think that comes with, because I was the same way as a fan before I started covering this. I'm like, oh, these guys are throwing in crystal balls These guys are throwing in predictions, and it's ruining Florida's chances of landing these kids. It's ruining Florida State's chances of landing these kids, what have you, because they're ruining the kids' moment. But now that I'm sitting on this side of the table, it's pretty much, I mean, it is what it is, guys. They're just trying to do their job.
Sure.
There's a fine line you have to walk. But quite frankly, a lot of the time these guys put in those crystal balls or the predictions or future casts or whatever website it is that has their prediction machine. They get the information directly from the staff. So I'm sure somebody at Texas told Jerry Hamilton, hey, PK just told us he's coming here, and he put in a crystal ball. And he didn't do it at like 100%. He did it at 50 or 60% to kind of make it seem like, you know what, I'm not necessarily super confident. Like, it's not a lock, but hey, this is what I think is going to happen. And then, of course, the day leading up, you had 80% predictions, 100% predictions, stuff like that the day of. But when he did it a couple of days beforehand at a 50 to 60%, the way I look at it, and I'm not taking anything away from these guys that put in those predictions, but if you put in a prediction at 50%, it's basically just an educated guess. Because like if you're sitting there saying,
you're meteorologist at this point.
It's gonna rain today.
It'll rain in Florida around 4:00 in July.
At that point,
great work.
Yeah, at that point, it's like, okay, 40%, 50%. I think he might go here, but until you see confidences of 70 to 80%, then I mean, it is what it is. These guys are just trying to do their job, and like I said, I understand the kids getting upset by it because they don't want it to ruin their moment, but at the same time, these guys are getting paid to do exactly that. And like you said, there are subscribers that subscribe to their website, that subscribe to their message boards that are like, if a kid commits and they don't post anything, they're like, well, why didn't you let us know about this?
Why am I here?
How did you not know about this?
Yeah.
I'm not getting the
Connor,
insider info that I want.
Where is so you mentioned it's a fine line, and obviously you've had some information that you didn't share in the past, and you've had some information that you did share. I mean, just taking a step back and looking at this from a standpoint of even just the PK situation, from your seat, when do you feel it's okay to say something, and when do you feel that it's out of place to say something? Like where do you find the line yourself?
There's a lot of gray area there. It's very hard. I've had my situations where I've had to learn from making a mistake. There a couple years ago, I put in a prediction and a kid got upset. They didn't necessarily know me personally, but I got a phone call about, hey man, somebody put in a prediction. I was like, oh yeah, that was me. And I mean, there's not really much else you can do at that point. You just got to chalk it up to the game and move on. But it's really hard to find that line. There are I know a lot of writers are super conscientious about that, and they won't release it until they're 100% certain the kid's going there, and they'll usually sometimes wait up until like the day of or a couple days before. Or a lot of times, I speak to a couple of my guys. So a guy that I'm close with is Blake Alderman, who writes for 247. And he sometimes, if he knows that a kid is really leaning towards Florida, regardless of if they just got an offer or not, regardless of how his commitment or his recruitment goes, he'll put it in way on the front end, and then he can change it later if he has to. Because if you put it in way on the front end, nobody's really going to think much of it if the kid goes a couple weeks or a month or something like that without committing. So it's to answer your question, that's kind of a long-winded answer. But it is it's very hard to find that line. And I always err on the side of, because we don't have a message board on SI at SI, so it makes things a little bit easier for us. We don't really release articles until it happens.
Sure, you're not breaking news. You're more of like reporting on what happened.
So, and if we have the opportunity to break it, obviously we do so. But that's only if we have the consent of that person, that athlete, what have you. So it's a little easier on myself because we don't have a message board to throw it on. So I always err on the side of let the stuff happen, and then we'll go ahead. And the easiest way for us to make sure that kind of people know that we knew what was going on is we have stuff ready to go for the second the kid announces. So if say Peyton Kirkland had committed to Florida, and he didn't want anybody to know it. Nobody knew he was going to Florida. We would have had a film review, a commitment analysis, all that stuff ready to go the second he announced his commitment, and that kind of tells you, hey, we knew what was coming, but we didn't want to ruin the kid's moment. We waited until he went public with it.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Okay.
I've got a couple of buddies of mine manage and run the War Chant site for FSU, and Michael Langston, who's been doing FSU recruiting for a very long time. He's always had a little bit of of just in the back of his mind, like that, finding that balance between what he knows and what he can share. And they would put out these little hot topics and like just these nuggets throughout the week and the month and just the recruiting period as a whole. Never giving anything away, but just trying to kind of lay the breadcrumbs. So if you take the initiative to look at it, maybe you could find yourself your own water, not make you drink it. But again, it's tough because these kids this is their one moment. But if you know what you know, and you're obviously hosting a site that is paying to get information, if you're not the first person on it, or at least you don't feel like, or if as a subscriber, you don't feel like they knew what was happening, you don't feel the value in the subscription. So it's a tough spot to be in for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not at all opposed to throwing those little breadcrumbs out there. You'll see me on the timeline hinting at stuff every once in a while. Like I said, I'll never do anything blatantly to ruin a kid's moment. But I'll throw a little. I've got certain pictures that I'll throw out there that kind of insinuates, hey, Florida might be having something happen here soon, or throw out a message that's a little cryptic so people can kind of try to read into it and dig into it and stuff like that. But I'm not opposed to that at all. But yeah, it's a tough line to try and tough tightrope to walk on the information that you have and what you can actually share.
I think honestly, because On3 was getting a little bit of heat because of the Cormani McLean, they came out with their whole recruiting. Hunter Wolf became a member. Thank you, Hunter. Appreciate you, man. I think welcome to earned your wings, Bubba. Welcome to the family. With Hunter or with Hamilton, with him doing that, it kind of resurged On3 again. I mean, it was a big W for them to call that, because they were getting roasted for 72 hours of like their clickbaity, like, because again, the Cormani McLean thing felt a little bit of a stretch because nobody else had him fall that far. So they were getting a lot of criticism for that. And then this comes out and it's like, you lose again. It's a tough world with being, that journalism, like, cause you're having your thoughts and your opinions and you're just saying what you feel, right? And as people think that you're just outlandish, you start to lose that credibility. So for them to get that W was honestly a big win, regardless of Peyton Kirkland being upset with you or not, because he tweeted at Hamilton. He goes, "I didn't even tell that guy," so I don't know where that came from. Like he didn't hold any punches on that, which I thought was kind of interesting too. Of like, look, like, and he was pissed. It's like, you took my moment away. I don't think that he did because nobody believed him, right? I think it almost made it even better, in my opinion. If I'm Kirkland, I'm like, this guy, a credible source tweeted it, and you still didn't believe it. Like, to me, I feel like that would be a W still. I don't know why he was upset about it, honestly. Steve, you got a drink.
Yeah.
Because of the subscriber. Who do we have?
Hunter.
Oh, Hunter. Let's go, baby.
It's a solid tradition. I like that.
Yes. Everybody but me. It's a Sunday. My gosh, I have to work tomorrow. Dang.
As he has it ready.
Well, I've gone unprepared a few times, and I caught the wrath of the chat, so I don't let that happen any longer.
So Connor, can you talk to us a little bit kind of where we're at with some Gator recruiting? We had Aiden on yesterday. Let's start with him, and then we'll kind of go over a few players on who you feel good about. Again, you don't want to take anyone's moment away. I don't know if you had a chance to see his interview. I'll give my opinion on from speaking to him, but I want to get your thoughts on where do you think he's going?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick anybody other than Florida for Aiden.
Sure.
Mom and dad both went to Florida. Mom was an All-American in track. I think dad ran track as well.
He's a decathlon.
Decathlon. Wow. Yeah. Much better athlete than I could ever be.
He was downplaying his dad.
He was downplaying his dad, and his dad was a decathlete. Wow.
He was saying that his dad couldn't even hold a light to his mom, basically.
Well, I mean, when your mom's an All-American,
it's
he's not wrong, I don't think. But I mean, obviously, Aiden took after that athletic ability, man. He's a 10.5 100-meter kid in high school as a junior. But I mean, he's down to Tennessee, Florida, and Alabama. Obviously, Florida has been the favorite ever since they offered him. He's been on campus multiple times. He's got the family ties, so I think he ends up going to Florida. It would shock me a lot if it was not Florida coming up on the 29th.
Yeah, so I felt good about Florida from his answers because I was going through it, right? It felt like his answers for Bama and Florida were very scripted. Like, yeah, it's it's like your typical, just like Democratic response of like, yep, things are good there, love the coaching staff, made me feel good, made the family feel good, excited to see what's going on, right? With Tennessee, it felt a little more personal. He's like, look, the offense is explosive. They score a lot of points, right? Which is telling me he's like, look, I'm going to go there and look good. And that was, to me, I'm like, man, I felt some Tennessee vibes there. I'm hoping not, right? Because again, he came on and I told him like, hey, we're a Heavy Gator podcast, and he's like, I was like, the one thing he said, don't ask me where I'm going. I was like, I would never. Like that's a dumb question. But he seemed very open to everyone else kind of saying, go Gators, much love. So either he was a heavy troll and by coming on here, right? Or he is Gator heavy and he doesn't want to kind of, leak it yet, but that's where he's leaning. That's what I'm feeling too. I'm hoping. So it seems like a really great kid, really, really well put together.
Yeah, if there's one thing I will say from the takeaway from that interview is that, my gosh, the kid, like, he's smarter than Shelton already. There's no takeaway there. But I mean, he was just very well spoken. Athletic ability, we know, just even coming from his family lineage, is through the roof. But just the interview was great. And even regardless of whether he puts on a Florida hat, Tennessee hat, the kid's sharp as a tack, and I think no matter where he goes, he's going to do very well. He comes across as very well spoken, intelligent, and has his priorities straight, and that's a huge thing right now. When obviously money sometimes seems to speak more volume than anything else.
No, absolutely, he's a super smart young man, and he's gonna ball out wherever he goes, like you said.
Fast.
If his junior numbers were any indication of what kind of numbers he's gonna put up as a senior this year in Orlando, it's unreal. I think he caught a touchdown every 3 catches or something like that.
That's what he was averaging.
Yeah, it's like he had 47 catches for over 1,000 yards and 13 or 14 touchdowns, and it's unreal if you go watch his tape. I enjoy going back every once in a while and watching his tape because of how explosive he is. But yeah, he's, regardless of where he decides to go, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, he's going to be a stud, and he's going to make a lot of fans really happy.
Absolutely.
Yep. The one thing I will say, Cody actually threw a comment out there, and he's got a super chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
With a question. But the one thing that Cody did point out, he hates Miami. The one school we can guarantee he's not going to, unless he is the biggest troll on the planet right now.
He PKs us. He said he wasn't doing that. He said he wasn't going to PK us.
He's not going to Miami
because he was excited that PK didn't go to Miami. Is how it all started.
Yep, exactly. So Cody Sprague, he's got a super chat in here. Who is someone under the radar that will surprise us that is a Florida lean?
A Florida lean. Oh man. Man, you guys are putting me on the spot with that one.
That's a tough one.
I mean,
Cody throws fastballs here sometimes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Don't hold any punches over here, bud.
No,
this is that gray area that we were just talking about, Connor. So welcome to the gray area.
yeah, exactly. This is definitely that gray area. I mean, there's a couple kids that have commitment dates set for this week coming up. I don't know that it's necessarily a surprise. You've got obviously the 3 kids from Osceola that are announcing on the 28th. I would expect Florida to land at least one of those kids. Obviously, Aiden Mizell commits on the 29th. Jordan Castell commits on the 30th. There are some, I mean, every year at Friday Night Lights, Florida lands at least one commit, whether it be 23 class, 24 class, what have you. It ends up being the spot where you like to get your next year's class started, right before the start of the next season. I was able to talk to DJ Lagway, earlier today, 2024, the number 1 quarterback in the country there. He said he's more than likely going to be at Florida for Friday Night Lights. I know he is the number 1 quarterback on Florida's board. He's supposed to be there for multiple days. I don't know if anything happens with him. I know they're going to push hard for him when he gets there, but he's somebody that Florida has really high on their board. And there's also Davy Belfort, 2025 quarterback that actually just reclassified to the 2024 class. He's from Miami. He's going to be at Friday Night Lights as well. I know Florida would like to get their quarterback for the 2024 class in early. So I'd say those are two guys maybe to keep an eye on over the next week when they get on campus for Friday Night Lights. You could see some movement there, whether it's a commitment or not. I think they could make big moves for both of those kids while they're on campus.
I like how he pushed us back a year. That was well navigated there, Connor. Well, he goes, let's not talk about this. What's happening right now. Let's kind of go into something that could change very easily over the next year. I like it. I like it a lot. Samuel Pimba, he is visiting Florida coming up soon. Is his final official visit? Is that correct?
I'm not sure. Is it an official visit? I just know he's visiting for Friday Night Lights or the barbecue, which is the 29th or the 30th. I know he's visiting for that date. I don't know if it's an official or not, but he is going to be on campus. He just announced that today. He's somebody that's at IMG Academy. Obviously, Florida has done well at IMG since Billy Napier got there. Kamari Wilson is very vocal and very active on all of his former IMG. Yeah, on all of their former IMG teammates. So I would expect Kamari to be in Samuel Mpemba's hip pocket while he's on campus.
So he's a 5-star stud, and that's one I think would be huge. So we could, him and then McLean as well, Kamani. When is Kamani? Do we have a date for him yet?
There's no set commitment date for him. There's a lot of speculation. He's a prospect that I think, because of how high profile he is, he'll probably wait till later in the process.
Okay.
Because he's going to have every offer in the book and everybody's going to be jockeying for position all the way up until he signs, regardless of if he commits early or not. So I just really don't see the benefit of him committing early. Obviously, if you're Florida, you would love for him to commit early, or any program for that matter, because in my opinion, he's the number one prospect in the country, regardless of how On3 ranked him.
Sure, absolutely.
But I think he's the number one player in the country, and obviously you're going to get kids that want to play with a player like that. So if you're a program, you want to get him in early, but I just don't see him doing it earlier than that.
Okay. Real quick, we had subscribers. We had Josh and George there, so thank you, Josh and George, to subscribing to the channel, man. We appreciate you guys. So great take there on that, Connor. I appreciate that, man. With Pimba and Kermani McLean, those are some big names. I think where Billy needs to really, it's everyone. We can't really hate on the class anymore. I think he's done a great job thus far. We've talked about that time and time again. We had you on last time. You gave him a high grade. He had a little bit of a dry spout there in June. Brought the juices back in July, and it seems like we could close out July really, really well for Napier. But landing one of those 5-star guys his first year without really having anything to show for on the field, to me, would be just absolutely massive. Now, obviously, Cristobal has done that, but Cristobal has had history at Oregon that definitely is going to transfer over. People don't realize that. Him being a Miami guy, all that helps in that first year where Billy doesn't have any of that. So for him to come in and already be in the conversation, that's what people keep forgetting and are missing out on. But I think to land one of those would be absolutely massive. So there's really no pulse on McLean then? Any pulse at all?
No, he's a really quiet kid. I got to see him at Future 50 this week. Let me rephrase that, last weekend. And spoke to him a little bit. Really good kid, but he's just kind of enjoying the process right now. It wouldn't shock me to see him out of nowhere commit somewhere, just because that's the kind of kid he is. He's not really going to tip his hat. He's not going to tip his hat one way or the other. He's a very, very quiet kid, so he doesn't really say a whole lot. So he could shock everybody and commit really early.
Okay.
But if I'm a betting man, I think he waits.
Okay, that's the vibe that I'm getting to. Unfortunately, it would be good for the momentum for Florida if he chooses to be a Gator to do it early, but I could see where the benefit for him, especially now since On3 dropped him. The guy's got to go do some more camps to get that thing back up now. So
apparently, Or just play a down of football. He could literally just play one football game and remind everybody how good he is. But again, it's the summer, so what else are we going to talk about? He could drop in rankings until he puts the pads on. One football game later, they remind themselves, oh yeah, this guy's really good.
Yeah, first game of the year, he'll go out and get 2 or 3 interceptions, and they'll be like, "Oh, I
Right.
wonder why we dropped this kid."
at a 7-on-7 non-pad camp.
Right.
We got another question from Codes in the super chat. Appreciate it, Codes. He says, Connor, where does a class end up ranking wise? End of year probably is what he's. EOD.
End of year. Man, that's a tough one. I think the end of this month will pretty much kind of tell you where they'll be.
You think we
if they
crack top
close
10?
I think they could. If I had to make a prediction right now, I'd say between 8 and 12.
Okay.
To close out the year. A lot of that will depend on guys like Cormani McLean. If you go land a kid like Cormani McLean, then maybe sky's the limit. Maybe they get closer to 5, 6, 7. Because obviously, like I said earlier, big-time players want to play with elite prospects like Cormani. Now, if you're able to go get both Cormani and a guy like Samuel Mpemba, then you can make a push towards inside the top 5.
Okay. That was my next
because
question.
I think guys like, if you land a guy like Aiden Mizell, if you land a guy like Jordan Castell, if you land any of the guys from Osceola, every one of those guys is inside the top 250 composite. And that's closing out the month of July. And then, of course, like I said, Friday Night Lights, you always land a kid, whether it be 2023, 2024. I think you could probably see one of each or what have you when they get there. But Florida's got a chance to close out the month really strong. Maybe they land Malik Bryant if he's pushed his commitment date back and does it before the end of the month. So if I mean, this is just talking here, but ideal scenario for Florida, if you land Malik Bryant, 1 or 2 of the kids from Osceola, Aiden Mizell, and Jordan Castell, you're looking at, 18 commitments in total for the class before the end of the month, and every one of them being inside the top 250 composite, all 4-star prospects.
I mean, that
would go a long way.
Yeah, that should. I mean, we've got 10 4-stars right now, and we're behind. And we're 23rd on 247. And there's a few of those guys have 5 stars ahead of us. But like Cincinnati has a ton of 3 stars. Northwestern has a ton of 3 stars.
Arkansas is another one that has a ton of 3 stars.
Yes. So that's where I mean, obviously those guys, and I think 3 stars will come, I think that's where people aren't realizing too. Those will start to trickle in. We only have 2 right now. But if we can get, like you're saying, all those guys that you just mentioned are all 4 stars. The Maliks, the Aidens, the Castells. I think the one that you're referring to is Jakeem Jackson. There was no speak on that beforehand. This isn't me breaking anything. It's just kind of what I've read and my feeling. And hopefully LeBlanc or Walker, they kind of, one of those 2 follow. And if that happens, my goodness, we should be skyrocketing and be tickling right behind Miami at that point, because they only have 7 4-stars, 1 5-star, and 6 3-stars. Again, the numbers obviously have to look right, but we're going to be tickling that Oklahoma, Miami, LSU range for sure, in my opinion.
Most definitely. Good
stuff, man. Well, Connor, dude, a pleasure as always, man. I think that was some awesome insight. It's always a pleasure to have you on, dude. I'm so glad you were able to hop on this Sunday. We're definitely going to want to have you back, especially if we have a big week. I know you're going to be busy, so I don't know how you're going to be able to make it on here, but the insight that you provided today was incredible as always, man. I appreciate you. Anything that you want to say? You want to plug your new show that you have going on as well? It's a great show. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do that. Obviously myself, and goes by Sticks, but I know him as Curtis. Part of the Roll Up Network. We just started a high school recruiting podcast called Roll Up Varsity, where we talk about high school recruiting across the country, give you breakdowns on kids that release their top schools, kids that have committed places, how the college or the high school football recruiting landscape is looking. And then, of course, we also try to get some really good interviews with these kids, like an Aiden Mizell. We had Will Norman last. We've had Treyon Webb, Tyler Williams, Miles Graham. We've had a plethora of really impressive interviews from really, really well-spoken young men. And we just like to give them a platform where they can kind of talk and just feel relaxed, kind of like a barbershop talk kind of thing.
Very much.
We're not going to sit there and grill them about their recruiting process the whole time. We want to know personal stuff and all that stuff. And we enjoy it. We release every Thursday. We've actually got a show coming up again this week, obviously. But yeah, if you guys don't mind, like, subscribe, follow us over there. Our Twitter handle is at rollup_varsity. And then, of course, if you guys don't know where to follow me on social media, it's at Connor Clark. I was able to clean it up, got rid of all the underscores, the numbers, all that good stuff.
Good stuff.
But yeah, just and if you have any questions, please, or if you guys ever want me to come on, please just don't hesitate. I know you guys have been awesome allowing me to come on and speak a little bit, and I apologize for the scheduling conflicts over the last week or so. It's been a wild time, but I always enjoy coming on, chopping it up with you guys, and thank you again.
Yeah,
for
man.
bringing me on today.
And to kind of back you up on that, with you guys had Trey Webb there, and that was a great interview. It dropped a lot of juice. I saw you guys were kind of going through because I guess he kind of dropped some knowledge about the Penn State situation, and people were trying to take it as their own story. Is that what was happening? I saw you guys kind of like tweeting out about it a little bit.
Yeah. So we luckily enough we were able to have Trey on as our first guest before anything happened, and then after he committed, he was gracious enough to join us for a Spaces on Twitter where he took questions from fans. Really a great young man. If you haven't been able to listen to it, obviously it's Roll Up Varsity on all podcast platforms. He is episode number 1, and then also, like I said, he did a Spaces with us. And he told us flat out, he's like, yeah, I told Steve Wiltfong that I was going to Penn State because I knew as soon as he put his crystal ball in, everybody else was going to put it in too. So he wanted to throw everybody off.
I love that. That's cool. This is the good part of just what the whole situation. I think with NIL, it's allowed for these kids to speak more and speak sooner, to see insight more and allow them to be themselves. And I kind of talked to Aiden a little bit too of like, hey man, have you had to adjust yourself because of what you post and what you say with NIL? And he goes, I've always kind of done that because even with my draft stock, I've always been, cognizant of that. But I think it's cool to see these guys' insights. But yes, please go check out Connor. Go follow him on Twitter. I've shot you all the time because I get a lot of my information from you. It's again like your kind of cryptic tweets. It's fun to see what's happening, what's coming up on with Florida Gator football, but also to the podcast. Go check them out. Go show some love, guys, from the High Top Sports family. So always a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Always a
Connor,
pleasure,
man.
guys. Thank you very much.
You, man.
See you, buddy. Have a good night, man.
You
Later,
too.
bud.
Alrighty, that's the man right there, dude. Always a pleasure, dude. The guy's
Always.
dialed in. Absolutely.
Just like the old school like the Webster's dictionary that they would walk around and sell door to door. The guy is just a fountain of information. He's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Let's get to the comments, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It's
scared money don't make money,
We had a few members. We try to turn on the buttons. We have a guest on. I don't want to throw them off because they're obviously not used to the hypeness. So we try to keep it, pretty chill. But we had a member join us. We had some subscribers. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the family. You got your pigskin now. You earned your wings. One more time. Welcome one more time. We got J Money the last. Hopefully he doesn't go to Bama. We'll talk about McLean. Yep, hopefully. Scott Anderson, what's going on? Mr. Nobody, he's a member. Real quick, guys. Mr. Nobody got a shirt because he became a member, a Beat Utah shirt. Ladies and gentlemen, the Beat Utah shirts, look at this. They're in. Check out that. Check that print out, Steve. Look at that.
I would never wear it in a million years, but that looks amazing.
It's a one-of-one, right? Or not a one-of-one, but that's a custom design that we had drawn up ourselves. You can't find this anywhere else. Beat Utah on the front. The quality is great. I love it. We got the hoodies that just came in as well. The thing is absolutely comfortable, but you guys check out the Beat Utah. The link's in the description if you guys want to get suited up for the Beat Utah game. We're stoked about that one as well. We got TK Gator Nation in here. What's going on, brother? Daniel, as always, back at it again. Thirst for Wisdom. What's going on, man? Welcome to the show. Scoop! That's the member right there. He's got his wings floating around. We love it. Oh, Daniel Riviera had a super chat. FSU lost, JSU and UF lost to UCF, and now hating on Miami. I mean, I have to read it, guys. The guys, it's donating. Oh my
God!
God!
Get an oh my! Like how does that?
I don't know.
How does that button even fit?
Fight for FSU.
Thank you. I don't know how that. I don't know how that fits either, but we'll go with it. Okay.
Josh and Nick just subscribed. We got the piggies filling up the shot glass. Welcome to the family, guys. Thank you for subscribing. Love it. Love the support.
Welcome to the family. Welcome, baby.
Ed DePriest, what's going on, big dog? Welcome, man. How are you? Lyric Pennywell, how are you? Go Gators. How's it going, guys? Hunter Wolf, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show, my guy. Thank you guys for liking and subscribing. Appreciate you hopping on with us. Johnny, what's going on, man? Go Gators, big dog. How are you? Let me see what else we got going on here. The badass Buckeye. What up, Buckeyes? What's going on, man?
Boy.
There we go. We're going far and wide
where
now.
Your allegiance lies, but I could, if I had to take a shot in the dark, I think I may be able to figure that one out.
Yeah, Anthony Beck's in the building. What's going on, Anthony? Welcome, man. How you doing? Mo Jr. Go Gators. Always a good Go Gators from Mo. Always can get a clutch one from him. Hopefully I don't miss anybody. If I did, sorry. I saw Mama. There's Mama. Look good wearing the merch. Thanks, Mama. Appreciate it. Freshly Jones, welcome to the show, man. He was in here early on. Hopefully he hasn't left yet, but he might have. But yeah, wow. Great show with Connor, as always. And we had a super chat from Cody. What did he say? Thanks for coming on. Sorry for the fastballs. LOL, this live chat is full of savages. They should have warned you. Yeah, look, they appreciate it. They appreciate it.
They know coming in. We do a pretty good job of prefacing these guys. It's not as if they come in here thinking that everything in this chat room anyway is kosher. They know what's up. They've watched before. They know.
He was prepared. I think honestly, he lives in the Twitter world. He expects that he's prepared to answer and to kind of navigate his way around it. So he was all good on that. But look, some great information on Florida football. You guys, I mean, be prepared. Steve and I are going to be on our toes over this next week. So be prepared for pop-up shows. Probably not pop-up because they're scheduled, but it's probably going to be Friday's going to be busy. Saturday's going to be busy. I'm thinking about heading down Friday to the Aiden Mizell commit. I'm not sure yet. I might drive down, but I might want to stay home because if things pop off, I want to be able to go live. We're thinking about it. We're figuring it.
Yeah, we'll do it for the family. Whichever one's better for you guys. Whichever one we can put it all out there for the best way for you guys. We'll figure it out.
Can you read Liz's? I'm not reading her stupid comment. Riley Grove,
you
welcome.
mean Elizabeth Husey? That says "Go Knowles, baby." What's up, Liz?
Absolutely ridiculous. Riley Grove, welcome to the stream, man. We're gonna break down some college football news. I don't know if you guys heard, but the Vols are in trouble. Kinda, sorta. The NCAA is gonna NCAA because they're a bunch of cowards, and I don't think anything's gonna happen.
Horrible.
But can you break? So it was how was it? Was it 16? Alec, what was 18?
Yeah, they had 18 major recruiting violations under Jeremy Pruitt.
Like top tier, like the worst violation, right? Like tier 1 is what I read.
Yep. The top tier violations. Now they were able to avoid what are considered not able to manage the university or not managing from a university standpoint. They got around that, which means that the university, the athletic department themselves can say that we didn't know. So that means that it's all going to kind of fall apart. But when it boils all down to it, this was before the NIL, and it was very clear that Jeremy Pruitt and Jeremy Pruitt's wife, to get down into the minutia, were basically handing out money. They were just giving out money to a player's mom. At least to one degree. Now, look, they've just started the investigation. It's only going to kind of scratch the surface, but man, talk about like even in a world where the NCAA is kind of a paper champion at best, you've got still major recruiting violations. It just makes zero sense that to have 18 level 1 allegations against you.
You were telling me too that they're going to get away with it because everyone that was involved with it is no longer there. And so what it seems like to me is they all got together and like, hey, we're going to cheat. We're going to do the best we can to kind of, break the rules. And if we're successful, whatever, we get a chip out of it. It is what it is. But if we all fail at it, we'll just quit and then no harm, no foul. And I look, if it's the worst type of allegations, I understand the guys that were involved aren't there anymore, but the school is still a brand. The brand itself, to me, is tarnished and should have some, repercussions from that. That's my thought on. Obviously, I'm going to hate on the Vols in any way that I can, but it's an absolute joke, bro. They're going to get away with it, and that's where everyone kind of complains about the NCAA not really holding anybody accountable. There's so many loopholes. It's just a big money pit of like who can you pay off and who can you keep hush hush. Why even release the article if it's not going to do anything? I don't know, but nobody's ever going to get SMU'd again and get canceled.
Right. No, because they can't, because it would absolutely decimate the financial stability of a university.
They realize that, yeah.
Right, and they did it before, and they saw what it did, and SMU will never be back to what it was then. Now, granted, they were obviously paying players. The Pony Express was a great 1-2 punch at the running back position, but the fact that Tennessee self-imposed restrictions on themselves, knowing that this was coming down the pipe, it tells me that they knew how bad it was. And look, granted, the NCAA, their toilet paper in a water hose, right? Like they got no chance at making anything stick. But it's just the fact that Tennessee even said, we're going to take 12 less scholarships, and we'll also give ourselves recruiting restrictions, which likely means less in-home visits, less official visits for recruits to come. So it's kind of a balanced situation here. Granted, there may not be any long-term repercussions, but the fact that Tennessee was even willing to admit that they were pretty blatantly caught doing something that they knew they shouldn't have, and it self-imposed some reductions and other restrictions. I mean, at this point, that's about the best we're going to get. So, yes, to your point, they've already got rid of Pruitt. They got rid of Phil Fulmer, who's no longer in the athletic department. So what's the school going to do? They're not being charged with lack of institutional control. That was what I was looking for. So that means that the university and the athletic department get to say, well, we didn't know because it was a rogue operation. So if you get rid of the people, you get rid of the problem. And if they've already self-imposed, and that's only
that's what I'm biting I'm pulling my tongue on because you keep rambling on. Was the by them self-imposing the punishment, it always lessens the blow. When you get pulled over, like, yes, sir, I was speeding. We learned from that, Steve, when you just admit that you were wrong. We'll dive into that in a minute, but it always helps. It helps the guy go, well, shit, he knows he's wrong. I mean, it just makes it a little bit less of a slap on the wrist. When you try to play it off like you didn't do anything wrong is where people get upset. So it's something you learn at very early on. And when you admit that you're wrong, the punishment's not as bad. You're still going to get punishment, but you definitely lessen the blow because you realize that you were doing something wrong. It's I felt to me, overplayed. But it's definitely something that is more of a thing. And kind of what we were talking about, Steve and I on the way to seeing Hatchie. When we left, we had that show where Steve was in house and we left. It was like a late night drive. And we're driving down the road, and like on the back roads, you go through a town, and then you kind of hit the back highways, and the speed progressively gets higher, right? Like it'll be 35, and you'll see 45, and then okay, it's gonna go 45, 55, 65 immediately, right? So here we are, 35, 45, and I punch it. I'm already just gonna go ahead and get to 65, put on cruise control, and ride, right? That's where I was getting to. So I literally just got the truck up, started going. We're at 60 miles an hour, I think, and it's 50. I'm like, all right, we're almost there. Sure enough, 2 cops just chilling. And I go, oh, son of a... And I didn't even...
by a farm.
Just boom, right? So he turned his lights on. I was like, we're getting pulled over, guys. And sure enough, pulls up. Another part of the story, I have a sticker on the back of my truck that says... I got to tell him, it makes sense. That somebody
now who's rambling? That
somebody pranked me, and they put a sticker that says, I love gay porn, in the back of my truck. Well, I left it on there because you can't put it back on my truck if I don't take it off. So it's been on there for a while now. And so the cop comes up to me. I go, hey, I was going kind of fast, huh? He goes, yeah, you were. He goes, do you know about your bumper sticker on the back of your truck? I was like, yeah, I do. And I explained it to him. He goes, all right, whatever, man. I gave my stuff. He comes back up. He goes, all right, man, I'm giving you a warning. I go, it was a sticker, wasn't it? He goes, yeah. And we were on our merry way. So it's good to be honest and just admit when you're wrong, and it definitely helps. And Tennessee is definitely taking the route here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done bringing that all back together.
Yeah, that was the whole. That was the whole point. Yes, guys, they keep asking me about Friday Night Lights. My goodness, I didn't know. Steve yelled at me after the fact. I'm sorry, I didn't know what Friday Night Lights. I've never heard of it. I've heard of it kind of like in passing, but I genuinely wasn't aware of it. Obviously, Aiden wasn't either. We were both kind of in shock yesterday. Yeah, I'm aware of it now, what it is and what it entails. Steve with me last night after the fact. So thank you for reminding me, Uchi. Okay, you guys keep just. I see it in the chats. I was hoping we would get past this, but you guys aren't gonna let it go. So here we are. Okay, just cut me some slack. Yeah, we're gonna do some learning today. All right, the more you know. The more you know.
Hey, the one thing I will say about Friday Night Lights is, from an FSU fan, obviously I've been following recruiting since as long as I've been keeping up with the football team. But Friday Night Lights for Florida has always been a thorn in the spine for FSU. We would have guys that we were almost 100% guaranteed that we would get, and they would go to the Friday Night Lights football camp. And they would go through just, the walkthroughs. They would go through the cookouts. They would spend all week in there. And it just, like, even the term for an FSU fan is just, like, it just makes your skin crawl, because we've lost so many recruits that went to that event and just came out of it like 100% Florida. So yes, I know what Friday Night Lights is.
Hey, Mark Pierce Design says, fun fact, Bobby Bowden was scared of competition in the SEC is the reason FSU didn't join the conference. Go Gators. I just wanted you to hear that, Steve.
Scared money don't make money.
You know?
Well, that's debatable, but that's fine. I mean, look, FSU's tried to get into the SEC numerous times, and Florida's blocked them because they didn't want us to have the financial backing that Florida has. So it's not exactly that way these days, but to start with, yeah, Bobby took the easy way out.
I love it. So Steve, give your two FSU fans that are in here, give them some update on their. So Steve, you and I talked off cast, and you didn't bring it up on cast, which was interesting. But I want to get your take on the who's your coach? Not Taggart. Is it Taggart? No. Who's your coach? Norvell. Norvell, and kind of you're saying that you feel like FSU's bombing this year to set up for a reunion with primetime. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Can you break that down for the people that hate FSU? And we've got to be concerned. Look, guys, we got to know what's going on the other side of the pond. You know what I mean? You got to keep.
I'll always know what's happening in the enemy camp. Look, there's some talk amongst some of the more affiliated fans of FSU, some of the folks that run other websites and have had some better connections than obviously I do, that the reason that some of these recruits are coming back and saying that FSU hasn't contacted them or they're no longer interested in FSU, however, all of a sudden Jackson State becomes relevant, is there may be a little bit of collusion that if Norvell can't recruit well and he has a below average season, which we've gone over our schedule a couple of times on this cast here, 6 wins is probably a no more Norvell. But it seems to be that a lot of recruits that are eliminating FSU from consideration are also kind of taking a slight to them as well. And then adding Jackson State in at the same time. There's just a feeling that the reason that this is happening is that Deion Sanders is doing whatever he can to get Norvell out and to make the move to Tallahassee within the next year to year and a half. We'll see how it goes. Again, it's a conspiracy theory at best, but the more people who have the theory and the more people who haven't talked to one another and are starting to kind of pick up on a weird vibe here. And this is even coming from DeCallan Brooks, who is the son of Derek Brooks who's on the Board of Regents. Everybody remembers Derek Brooks if you're an FSU fan. It's coming even from him. So now you're starting to wonder how much of that talk is coming from maybe higher level than what we see in the media and what we see in articles and what we see on even ESPN and things like that. A lot of back end conversation and maybe handshake agreements. We'll see how it goes. I mean, look, Norvell's got to win. If he wins 7-8 games, it's a non-starter.
What do you want to have happen? What do you want?
Oh
Steve?
My gosh, baby, put Deion in a FSU jacket. Put that guy
It would be dangerous. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I wonder if he wanted to go to FSU when they were first hiring coaches, and FSU kind of turned their head, and he went to Jackson State, and now he's a little butthurt, and he's like, "Screw you guys, you messed up. You didn't believe in me when I was kind of fresh off the oven, and you wanted to go get this guy who obviously can't win, and I'm over here kicking ass, taking names in Jackson State. You didn't believe in me when I was a nobody, and now you want me? You're gonna have to earn me, baby." He's gonna get paid.
He was a big Taggart fan. He really wanted Taggart to do well. So I don't think that because those guys are friends like outside of football. So I don't know if that would have been a transition that would have worked.
Fight for FSU! Fight, baby, fight!
I hate that.
I don't think that transition would have worked well, but we'll see how it goes. I think at this point, there's an opportunity for him if things don't go well for Taggart or for Norvell. So we'll see how it goes. You guys don't want that. Miami doesn't want that. Florida doesn't want that. That guy is a machine when it comes to recruiting.
I don't want that at all. J Bar 2015, he says Bryant would have signed with UF yesterday. Delay not good for UF. I disagree. I don't think that he may have signed with UF yesterday, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping this isn't another Jaden Rashada situation. But this was one of those times where I had kind of a gut feeling like, look, this feels better than not. So we'll see. Steve, I think they appreciate that insight on FSU there. I think they do.
Well, we'll see. These guys give me a little bit of love just because they know that the beating I take on a weekly basis a couple of times.
Yeah,
so I appreciate it, guys.
Daniel D, what's going on? Did anybody watch Patty the Batty yesterday?
Oh boy!
Oh, Patty the Batty! Oh, Patty the Batty! That was an incredible fight. The guy is up and coming for the UFC. Can you
give anybody a visual of this guy?
You pull him up. I mean, everybody knows who Patty the Batty is, Steve. You're the only one that doesn't know who Patty the Batty is. You're the only one that is not. You're not cultured, Steve. You're not cultured. It's not my fault that you don't know who he is. Like, how do you? You're obviously not in tune with what's going on. That's why Dion didn't want to go to FSU. You guys are outdated.
Okay, so everybody here knows who Patty the Batty is.
We're about to find out. We're about to find out.
I'll take my lumps if that's the case.
We're about Scoop says I love you, Steve. Air hug. Hey, listen, guys. Merch is in. Check this out. Look at this thing. Fresh to death.
Get on that.
Guys, this is going to be a limited time, okay? It's only going to be, obviously, until the Utah game. The 90s throwback, custom art ink there. Go scoop your up little beat Utah shirt. Show some love for the boys and girls at home, okay? Little orange and blue. This is in multiple colors, not just blue. They got black, white, I think orange, and maybe gray. I decided to go with blue. Blue looks good on me. Fits really well. I love it a lot. Links in the description. Also, too, next Wednesday, we're going to do a drawing. We're going to do a giveaway for a custom jersey for all of our members. We're creeping up to the 40 to 50 mark, which is absolutely incredible. You guys are becoming pigskins and earn your wings, which we love. And we're going to do a little roulette table, I think. Not the duckies this time. We're going to change it up, a little gambling action in here. And we're going to have a good time. So if you guys want to become a member and have a chance to win that, we're going to be doing giveaways. We've already done this is going to be our third giveaway on this channel. So, and we're also creating a, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's a chat. I'm drawing a complete blank right now on the a Discord, so we can kind of talk with our members more as well. And if you just became a member as well, there's in the membership board, there's a link to kind of go and email us and say, hey, and give us your information so we can talk to you and chat with you guys. So please go ahead and do that as well. And Daniel D says, Patty the Batty is the future of the MMA. So yes, he knows who Patty the Batty is.
Daniel knows. All right, Daniel D knows what's going on.
And Riley Grove said, hell yeah. So I'm saying, yeah. The Utah freshly says the
Florida State live stream during the game. Cody, we may actually end up doing a pregame cast outside the stadium. We'll see how it goes, but we've kicked that notion around a little bit to where we may take this thing mobile and
we're definitely gonna do. It's gonna be like a big. We're gonna be like or the goal is to be like college game day. That's gonna be the idea. So it's gonna be like an hour live show. There's gonna be an event there. We're gonna be doing a giveaway. We're gonna have merch, things like that as well. But yeah, he said so. I got my buddy. Fresh said Utah's too tiny. It's a little small, but we're not trying to advertise for Utah. You know what I'm saying? Just beat Utah. That's the point there. But I appreciate your feedback. I'll definitely keep that into consideration for next time. Cody says, how much do you yell at the TV, Holly?
Oh, gracious! I scare my daughter, my wife, animals.
It's not
like everything runs for me. Yeah, it's not good. It's not a beautiful situation. Now, look, if it's a Wake Forest game, maybe not. But look, Miami, I won't have a voice come Sunday, and that's if I'm even in my own house. Heaven forbid, I'm in Doak.
Connor,
that's a Monday Tuesday thing.
Connor said, "What's up, boys? Let's crankle some ankles." Yes, sir. That's what somebody said last night to Aiden. Jesse Cauldron, hey, what do you think about UK? I feel like everyone is giving them all kinds of love. They are. They got more votes than Florida did to finish first in the SEC East. Florida didn't get any, actually, as a matter of fact. I think Kentucky's going to tuck Kentucky. I think they're like the Miami of like, look, they can do really, really well, but they can also go 6-6. Like that's just, to me, that's where Kentucky's at. To be honest with you. They've got a decent quarterback. So it all just depends, man. I think it's hard for me to say. I hate saying like, oh, like it's the same year. It's the Kentucky. Obviously things change year in and year out, but I don't think Kentucky beats Florida. I think Florida's going to be pretty fired up about it. It's in Florida. I think that's going to kind of set the tone for the Kentucky season. Honestly, once we beat Kentucky, I wouldn't mind Kentucky kind of railing through the East, beating Tennessee, beating South Carolina. I wouldn't mind any of that. So as long as we beat them, honestly, I wish Kentucky the best because that means you're just kind of knocking down everybody else and kind of getting in their head. So as long as we beat them, I don't care what they do, to be honest with you.
Look, one thing to be said for Kentucky is that Mark Stoops has been their coach for going on, I want to say 6 years now. And he's brought that program into a level of consistency. And if there's one thing that you can always say about Kentucky, prior to him, is that they would have a good year or two, but then they would just turn back around and be a dumpster fire. He's been able to keep them consistent. And even if that consistency is 7 wins, 8 wins, that's almost the more concerning than a really, really good Kentucky team that's not used to being good versus a Kentucky team that's consistently above average. That's the scary part. Stoops is a great coach. He was a defensive coordinator for FSU for a while. He was a great coach for us.
No, he definitely is, for sure. All right, boys and girls, what a great show. We've been jam-packed. A lot of content's been going to be coming out from the last 2 days from the interview. So if you missed the first half of today or you missed the interview with Aiden, there's definitely going to be some clips on that. So make sure you got the bell on, you're subscribed, you're liked, you're loving it, you're feeling it, you're dialed in, you're having a good time. As always, Steve, it's a pleasure, man. Be here on Wednesday, guys. We're doing a giveaway for our members, so make sure if you're not a member, smash that button. Check out the merch store. Get yourself a Beat Utah shirt, high top hoodie, whatever it may be. Get warm, get cozy, get fuzzy. You know what I'm saying? Steve?
Sheldon?
I'll see you later, big dog.
Let's boogie.
Boogie, boogity.
Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. I have no regrets, yeah, I'll tie up my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be in debt. Been stabbed in the back bed, I'll show you what happens. Pass me the mic and I'll show you with action. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. I feel this pain, you already know.